Welcome to the UK Fantasy Football Show, Goal's weekly podcast that discusses many a football fan's favourite pastime. We'll be analysing Game Week 28's results, discussing the shock defeat for Liverpool that ended their Invincibles' hope, and revealing our teams for Game Week 29. Joining us this week for the second time this season is Goal's head of news and features, Peter Staunton. Last time you came on, you were above Dave, despite not touching your team since Game Week 1.
Yeah.
How are you faring now?
Not very good. I'm about 3.7 millionth in the world, which is still about halfway.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I think out of, all the people that are still interested.
Are you still interested, though?
Well, no.
I get the impression you're not from the fact you have a load of players in your team who aren't playing.
Well, the problem there was the League Cup final. So there was games rescheduled, so I didn't have players in the team last weekend.
Sigurdsson's still there. You must be one of the last people left with Sigurdsson.
Why?
Because
he's rubbish.
Yeah, he's had a terrible season. For Sigurdsson standards.
Yeah, but he kind of bangs in a free kick every now and again.
No, he doesn't.
I hit the post last week, didn't he?
Yeah, but I was explaining that the reason why I don't have many points this week is because Ederson, Bernardo, Aguero, Aubameyang, because their game was rescheduled against Man City. All those fellas didn't even play.
Your captain's on the bench, so he wasn't playing.
My
either.
captain is always on the bench, Enda Stevens. I don't know why.
You got a very Irish-looking bench there, actually. Duffy there too.
Yeah, Duffy and Stevens. Yeah. I try and get some Irish guys into the team if I can, but there's not a lot of them around the Premier League at the moment. Shane Long scored the other week with his Johnson. I noticed.
Maybe get him in your team. He can be your new captain. Mix up the Irish captains a bit.
What about Grealish?
I'll get on to Grealish. I do like Grealish, but unfortunately, he's one of these. There's a lot of good players, aren't there, out there who just don't do the business in fantasy. So you watch them in the flesh, and then you watch them match today. They do really nice stuff, but like it's worthless, because what use is doing a dribble and then hitting it to somebody else, and then they cross for the goal or whatever,
You must be.
It's the McTominay effect.
The McTominay effect. Yeah, Makelele was always bad for that back in the day.
For Obi Mikel as well.
Yeah.
Should we just spend this 45 minutes just listing players?
Yeah.
You must be enjoying Calvert-Lewin's supremacy.
Well,
though.
see, I feel vindicated from Calvert-Lewin because I've had him since the start of the season, and I just knew the way he finished last season for Everton. I just knew he was going to go. I thought he was going to go stratospheric this year, and I think I saw something. There's only one goal between Mane and Salah's combined total, and Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin's goal total this year. Am I right with that?
Well, you got 13 goals this season, does Calvert-Lewin?
Yeah,
which is a fantastic haul.
I think if you checked his XG, he's probably worth maybe a little bit more than that. And I think he will settle into. When he settles into the player, he's going to become. It'll be at a higher level than he is right now. I can see him, Kane's injury problems, whatever, for England. I can see him becoming England centre forward over the next 12, 18 months and going to a better club than Everton. I think you look at what happened with Lukaku, scored all those goals at Everton and then moved on to Man United. Now he's doing the business at Inter. Well, I actually think Calvert-Lewin is a better all-round player than Lukaku was when he was at Everton. Lukaku was there to be service and he would put the ball in the net, whereas I just think Calvert-Lewin's got so much more to his game. Now, this wasn't being borne out in his fantasy football totals for a long time, because there's only so many times you can go to matches and go, I really like the way he flicks that ball on. It's not going to be worth a lot in fantasy or holding the ball up. But now he's adding those goals to his game, and he's got a world-class manager in Ancelotti. And like I said, I think Calvert-Lewin. I was all on board the Calvert-Lewin hype train before it even left the station.
Yeah, you called it earlier.
Yeah, you got the early bird ticket, didn't you, for that?
I did, yeah.
Dave, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, what just embodies the fact that he's flying at the moment is you don't score goals like he scored against United if you're in bad form.
Incredible.
It's
Almost scored the winner as well.
Yeah, well, he did. I can't believe that Everton fans and Ancelotti were getting sore about that goal. Of course, it's offside. I mean, there's no the guy's lying on the ground and then he dummies the ball and it goes in. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think they were just putting on a show. Like, how that Australian referee went, oh, mate, do you want me to just go over and try and sell the VAR?
It's a good accent.
Thank you. That's essentially what Ancelotti was doing. He's like, oh, well, I know it was offside, but I need to look like I really care, so the Everton fans adopt me as one of their own. Yeah. And then he gets sent off. Yeah, job done.
They love all that.
Folklore.
What was he actually saying to the referee that got him to get? Because I could see the ref was just taking it at first, wasn't he? He was like, "Yep, okay.
Been like
right, that's enough now. You're off."
It'd been like two wrestlers. It'd been like Kane versus the Undertaker, and they've just been saying, just probably telling each other a joke or saying what they're having for tea, and then and then Ancelotti's going, "Hey, referee, you sell this. You sell me off. I'm folklore."
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave, that's how it works.
Yeah. Dave was quite early on the Calvert-Lewin train in our.
I was,
weren't
yeah.
you?
Well, he copied me after I was in the first time.
I didn't really copy you, Pete, because like you're not really someone that I associate with fantasy football. Like, I would take your knowledge on the game in general, but I was probably copying someone else higher up the table in FPL.
Yeah.
Which Pete was last time.
Yeah,
was
it's
on.
true. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I haven't actually checked. Was it actually above me?
I was.
By how much?
Yeah.
Just a couple of points.
Yeah, it was very close.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Fair
I've
enough, I'll take
dropped
that.
like 2.5 million places below you at this stage. I think.
There's a
Yeah.
bit of a
It's
gap
quite
now.
a lot, really.
But I've been trying really hard.
Dave's had
Still
quite a
to
renaissance,
be-
really, haven't you?
Just a little bit. I'm just kind of. I've made a concerted effort to catch you, haven't I?
Yeah, our regular listeners will know that Dave was closing in on me, and now he's just 3 points. 3 points off me. Having
on.
spent almost all season at the bottom of the table, he's now just potentially 1 game week away from usurping me in second place. First place is now distant. Sam's distantly ahead of all of us.
I still find it. I think it's brilliant and it's really cute how you two have just got this little personal battle going on now, and that's enough to give you that.
Well, we need to fight for
desire.
something, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, no, first place is out of the question. You've won. It's fine. We've accepted it. We're over it, but we just don't want that wooden spoon.
Well, it's less than 100 points the gap now, so
Well, like 98 or something.
yeah, it's not over.
The only hope for us is you completely bailing in that week where it's the FA Cup quarterfinals, because you've used your free hit. I haven't used my free hit, so I'm going to absolutely make hay in that week. Go crazy and just jam in all the players of the 5 matches that are going to be left to play. Dave, I can pull clear of him as well. He's used his free hit.
Yep.
He's a bit
I've only
screwed.
got the bench boost left.
See, I don't think you will, because even if I only have like 6 players, there'll be 6 players that you'll probably have. So you'll be relying on, like, I don't know, a West Ham defender to try and haul back 100 points against me.
I believe
It could happen.
Well, I guess we'll see. The thing with the free hit is obviously you can't really tinker around with the team until it comes to it. We've got 2.5 weeks until 2 weeks until we can start playing around with it. At the moment, though, the fixtures do look pretty bleak from a fantasy manager perspective. There's only, I think it's, let's have a look here. There's still 6 matches scheduled in. Spurs, West Ham, Burnley, Watford, Norwich, Everton, Liverpool, Palace, Leicester, Brighton, and Wolves, Bournemouth. But you'd think Leicester, Brighton will get called off because Leicester have got Birmingham at home. And then one of Spurs, West Ham, or Norwich, Everton will be called off because Spurs and Norwich play each other in this round of the FA Cup. So there's not going to be a lot of matches left. It will be a tight week for fantasy managers heading into that international break. So it's not even like they can do what they did with Man City when that game was called.
Yeah, I'm just looking at those fixtures now, and I think my previous statement's going to come back and seriously bite me on the arse. Actually,
There's some, Wolves probably just jamming a load of Wolves players against Bournemouth, who aren't exactly flying at the moment. Burnley, I get Nick Pope back in for a 1 week wonder maybe. Yeah, Liverpool will play. So managers with Liverpool players, FPL managers with Liverpool players, they'll be fine. Liverpool and Palace definitely don't have an FA Cup match that weekend. But everybody else, it's looking a bit bleak. Yeah. But for now, we don't have to worry about that. Although we do have a slight double game week this week, unexpectedly, I guess. Man City against Arsenal has been rescheduled for March 11th, which is the same day as some Champions League action, but neither team obviously involved in that. Arsenal having been knocked out of the Europa League, don't have a Europa League game the next day like they might have expected to do. But since our last podcast, I think, went out, they were obviously still in it, but Olympiacos knocked them out. So there is some double game week action there, which
Unceremoniously.
Yeah. So one for FPL managers to consider, but we'll come to that a little bit later. Looking quickly at our scores now in our overall sort of non-public league. Dave is currently still third, as mentioned, with 1,445 points. I'm clean on to second with 1,448 points, and Sam still 98 points clear on 1,546 points. Although you did get 36 points this week,
which was like nearly 50% higher than the average.
That's true.
Which I think is
Nice
a
spin.
remarkable
It's a great spin.
achievement by myself.
Remarkable.
Because I forgot it was a game week on a Friday. So I knew I needed to make a few changes, and then just got a text through saying Norwich are winning. I was like, shit. So I didn't have Henderson. I had about 25% of my budget was sat on the bench. But all praise are you.
Yeah, he brought the game, didn't he? You
Yeah.
started him. Did you start him or did he come off the
I
bench?
had no choice.
Fernandez, you're 7, don't you? He got you some points.
Yep. And Salah did Oh no, he did nothing, didn't he?
Nothing.
Yeah, you got my captain at 4 points.
We all had
Brilliant.
captain Salah, so that was a letdown for all of us.
But the guy who got 101 points had Sarr as his captain. Do you know the Watford?
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
That's a ballsy call.
It's got to be a mistake. No way he was.
Well, I
don't
think
know.
it came out that he texted or tried to DM him on Twitter or Insta saying, "Could you score a couple of goals for me this weekend? Thanks." So I didn't reply, but maybe he just saw it and thought that's the kind of motivation I need to resonate.
I love that.
Watford are dangerous.
He's got Decore.
Seriously.
Yeah,
I've bought into Decore a few weeks ago just after Pearson took over it.
They've had
but
some
I
good
reckon
results.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Do you see it continuing?
I think they're worse. I think they're far worse teams than them.
So they've got Palace next up.
Yeah, I think. I mean, Palace don't score a lot of goals, so we'll get onto it with my 1 week wonder, whatever you call it. But I do have.
You got it right. Nice. Yeah.
I'm just looking for a bit of guidance because I'm tempted to stick Sarr in there.
It'll be a low scoring game because Palace are a very tight team. Very tight team. Could go a goal either way.
For me, I still think Watford are a little bit in danger. Villa look a little bit cooked.
Nah, not in a million years.
Villa?
No, Watford.
You don't think they've had some pretty dodgy results? I know they had a bit of a renaissance, but they're still what?
They just smashed Liverpool.
Yeah,
and
one off
the unbeaten team.
Game. Yeah, they're beating some big teams, but I still think they're in risk of going down. Brighton are probably the ones who I think will finish beneath them. They've been naff in 2020.
Yeah. Brighton. I agree.
Properly falling, slowly but falling, because they can't win games. And I think for me, Villa and Norwich are pretty much done deals.
Villa, Norwich, Brighton.
Yeah.
Done. Watford. Easy peasy.
So we think Bournemouth are going to survive.
They're doing all right now, yeah?
Yeah.
They've been much better, haven't they? Got a draw against Chelsea at the weekend, which is pretty decent.
Yeah. Liverpool up next, which is a tough one. But, after what Watford did, maybe it isn't. But
I was a bit worried about Newcastle for it because we hadn't scored in however many games. I think it's 4 or 5 games now. But smashed.
I think Newcastle could find a bit of trouble by the end of the season.
We're fine now. We're fine. Smashed West Brom last night. It's all good.
A massive shout from Rob last week, putting Dubravka in goal for his 1 week wonder.
Yeah, fair play to that.
That was decent.
Yeah, he did call that we are good at home when it comes to not conceding goals. It's just a shame that we are utterly useless at scoring goals. But it's a good call from Rob.
So
well played.
Stats during the week, they're like bottom position for chances created, touches in opposition box, shots taken, and goals.
Yeah, we're not great at attacking. Joe Linton has been a complete flop.
Yeah, but I could have told anybody who watched the Bundesliga last season, one match would have told you he was going to be useless.
Did he score 4 last season?
Something like that, yeah.
40 million.
Where did they get
it's a 10-time multiplier. That's how I work it out.
Where did they get that price tag from?
Ask out in his pants now. That's not
Do you know? I think it's just that once Premier League clubs get interested, the dollar signs go in these.
No, massively, yeah.
First choice striker.
You're going on holidays and you go to these restaurants. They've got 2 menus. One with the prices for the British tourists and one for everybody else. I think that's what it's a bit like when Premier League teams come to buy players.
Yeah, it almost definitely is.
How much for Jolton? 40 million.
So just wait for the reaction.
Sorry, Mr. Ashley.
Okay.
Wrong menu.
In our public league.
But they have Newcastle. I think those 2 guys that they have, Almiron and Saint-Maximin. I think even in a better team, those guys would do the business. I think they're really good.
I like Almiron.
Really, really good wide forwards. They're brilliant.
I mean, I've been slagging him off in recent episodes because he's getting no points.
Yeah.
But I've stuck with him, largely out of necessity, to be honest. But he scored twice last night.
Yeah.
He's been really good in the FA Cup. He is the reason we've got to the quarterfinals of
the FA Cup. Yeah. And I think if they had a more progressive manager, let's say, who played football in a different way than Steve Bruce does, I think you would see those guys they'd score and assist a lot more because I think their that maybe is a bit lower than it should be. But that's why they're at a club like Newcastle, with all due respect. But I do think that they have that ability to improve and get to a better level. Saint-Maximin and Almiron, 2 very good players. They just need the right support cast around them.
Well, we saw a similar thing with Wijnaldum, where he didn't quite look the part in that Newcastle team when we got relegated. Went off to Liverpool and looked so much better.
Yeah, he did,
Anyway, so top of the public league is Mayin Al-Islam, who's, for the regular listeners among you will know, he's been there for a while. However, he's only clinging on now ahead of Graham Wilshaw, who is now just 4 points off the top spot. They are far, far clear of me, Dave, and Sam in the 1700s. It's a long way away. But no one really at the top had a great week because a lot of the big guns usually didn't perform. Fernandes probably being the main exception.
Just to jump back, you were saying I did shit this week.
You did.
I was tied with the first, second, and third. I beat first and third in our big league, and was tied with second.
Yeah,
so basically that's the kind of company I keep.
All right, you did
These
well
top performers
among your big guns.
Yeah,
but in our league, You were 3 out of 3, so
Yeah.
bottom performer. That's what I judge it on. Podcast listeners and YouTube viewers, you can join our league and test yourself against us all season long. The code to type in on the FPL website is NHC4WZ. Let's move on then. So this week our big talking point is the end of Liverpool's invincible hopes. From a Liverpool point of view, this past month has been quite a bit of a wobble actually. So they're on the brink of a UCL exit. They lost that Invincibles tag in the league and last night knocked out of the FA Cup. What do you make of this wobble, Pete?
I think it's funny Klopp was calling for, winter break, winter break. And then he comes back and they're useless.
Killed their momentum, hasn't it?
Totally.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
So you could say if he'd put his full strength team out in the FA Cup in the fourth round, then they would probably have kept the momentum going.
Well, it's an interesting one to look back on, but I think he probably feared putting a full strength team out against Chelsea because with the momentum lost, he probably thought it would do more damage that they had a full team going out there losing rather than a half team going out there losing. But even last night, they had 4 or 5 of their Champions League winning team out there. I mean, it should have been enough to get over Chelsea. But I think if you look down throughout Liverpool's results throughout the season, their XG, their X points, that kind of thing, they're probably a little bit too far clear relative to where they deserve to be in terms of the games that they've won. The types of goals that they scored here and there. I don't think they're a generational team, and
No.
I think over the course of a season, these things tend to even themselves out. So I think they're having that reckoning right about now. I don't think it's any real cause for panic, but come the end of the season, teams once the shakeout happens, teams usually end up where they end up. That's where Liverpool are right now.
It feels a long way back now, but the first 3 months, maybe 2 months of the season, they weren't really that great. They were really grinding out results.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Not being particularly grinding out wins, not being particularly great. And then it was around kind of November time that they really flipped the switch and became a really, really top team at the top of their game. And yeah, as you mentioned, the winter break kind of killed that a bit, didn't it? And
I think naturally over a season though, you're going to have those ebbs and flows in how you play, and that's what
I
winning
think
a league is
that
about,
was
isn't it?
The difficult bit there, because they just weren't. They were just a ruthless winning machine. Whether it was a last-minute VAR-influenced penalty or smashing a team 5-0, they were just winning. To the point you just expect them to, even if they were 2-0 down, you'd expect them to still come back and win.
And they did that a few times down throughout the season. But what also can't be overlooked is I think the challenge from sort of the teams between 2nd and 6th or 7th has been really poor this year relative to other seasons. That can't be overlooked. Man City, they didn't have Laporte for a long stretch of the season. They didn't have Sané for a long stretch of the season. So if you go to the Liverpool team at the start of the year and you take Van Dijk out of it and you take Mane out of it and say, okay, now let's see what you can do, then you would see different results at the end of the day. And then when you don't need to talk too much about Spurs, Man United, Chelsea, even
Arsenal.
Leicester, Arsenal. These teams just really haven't been on it. And Liverpool have raced clear as a result of that.
Especially last night, do you think it's a suitable point to argue that Liverpool's squad depth just is not there?
It's not there. They are reliant on their first 11, overwhelmingly so.
And in a 65 game season, that's just not feasible, is it?
You look at the forwards that had out there last night. I mean, Minamino's a neat and tidy player, but I would be surprised if he scores 1 goal before he leaves Liverpool. He just doesn't carry any sort of threat. For me, he's neat and tidy. It'd be lovely. I mean, if he wanted to play with us on a Monday night down the 5 side, then.
Well, funny you should say, because I remember watching when Liverpool signed him. He was on a game show in Japan, and the ball was getting clipped in, and he had to knock all these things down in the goal.
Yeah.
And I was watching him going, I'd do better than you on that.
Kind to yourself, right?
He is a bit kind. I saw him. He didn't find it that difficult, to be fair.
But also, I mean,
to knock him out.
And Divock Origi as well. I'd be really worried about him if I was a Liverpool fan. I mean, after scoring those goals against Barcelona and then scoring against Spurs in the final, I think if Liverpool has kind of shopped him around at 35, 40 million last summer,
Newcastle got to come calling.
Oh, they probably would have got it for him. Well, who's going to take him now? He doesn't look motivated. He doesn't look sharp enough. He just doesn't look tuned into what Liverpool are doing. And
sounds perfect for Serie A.
but it's games like last night that he should be proving that I can be the 4th striker here. I can do it. But it's just not happening.
I do think they've got good strength and depth, Liverpool, just except up front. Up front, they have no strength and depth. But the rest of they've got a lot of good midfielders. They've got enough centre-backs that have carried them through quite a few centre-back injuries throughout the season. Full-backs, I mean...
They don't have a full-back, do they?
No, but...
Gomez cannot play right back.
No, but you don't tend to have usually like strong backup full-backs in teams. You look at all the great teams, it's rare that you'd have a really quality right-back or left-back.
They need a Phil Neville.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, they've got James Milner's their Phil Neville, and he's much better than Phil Neville ever was.
I always think when Lovren starts,
successful,
when Lovren starts playing for him, I always feel like the performances go off a little bit. You know, like when you're playing football with a guy who's not that great, or he's had like a really bad few weeks.
Yes, we do, Dave. Yeah.
No, not me, obviously. And it's like it doesn't really matter if he does nothing wrong. There's always that kind of feeling that it's brought the team down a little bit.
Yeah.
He's fourth choice centre back, so
yeah,
to be expected, I guess, of that.
He was in for the Watford game, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and they're blaming him. But even on the goals,
that's what I mean, though. He'll get the blame even if it's not his fault.
Yeah, I didn't see him to blame for the goals, but maybe the overall level. I didn't see it anyway. I was at a wedding, so I didn't see that game.
Did you have a good time?
It was all right, and then people started coming in.
How was the cake?
I don't need the cake.
He really
looks really offended by that. I eat the cake. Why would I eat the cake?
You're not a cake person.
Not really, no.
No.
Okay.
No.
Just focus on the booze.
I had a few pints, all right. Yeah.
But people were coming in and saying, "Oh, Liverpool have lost," were they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, and I was thinking, I wish I was watching that now. Rather than sat here listening to "Love is patient, love is kind" for the millionth time in my life.
But you know, with the winter break, right? Do you think that the players get a bit of a taste for the end of the season, especially when it's job done in the league, and they go on, they have like that little break, and it almost gives them that.
I'll tell you what.
Actually, this is really nice, and I've only got so many matches left, and I can be back on holiday again.
I'll tell you what. Some of the things that I've heard from clubs, about players at certain clubs, I would be surprised if this winter break carries on.
It could be
really.
Oh yeah, the thing is, right, the reason why it works in places like Spain, Germany and Italy is because it's a culture of the winter break. So the players they know what they're doing on the winter break. They've got 3 or 4 weeks. They'll spend Christmas with their families. In the Germans' case, it's a little bit later than that in Spain and in Italy. But you know, they have a plan for the winter break. Whereas in England, it was spring break. That's the way the players looked at it. And this is, you know, hand on heart, I'm telling you the truth there. Some of the things that went on in Dubai over the course of that winter break, okay, are
you could write a book.
They're end of season activities, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about the nocturnal stuff that they were getting up to, but even, you know, sort of, I don't know, the activities that they're doing, if it's, I don't know, parties on a boat or things like that. But there was a lot of stuff going on there that I don't think clubs would be too happy about when the players came back after the break, because the break is about recharging your batteries and making sure that you're fit to go for the last few games of the season. And from what I've heard, players were aiming for the winter break so they could go away for a couple of weeks, spring break style, and then come back, and they just haven't been able to recover.
It's like a snow day from school or something.
Yeah,
you just go out
totally,
and full sugar all day, out in snow, diving around in the wet.
Coming back off a stag ding, you had 3 days away, you come back and go, fucking hell, I need a holiday now.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
And I think that's because the culture of the winter break just isn't in English football. It could take a generation before the ethos of a winter break actually comes into clubs.
Do you not think it's also potentially just down to that sort of British mentality of, like, you know, as soon as you go to the airport, I think Brits are the only one who goes, right, 7 a.m. pint.
I definitely think that's part of it. I would say as well, what you've touched on in your first bit is spot on in terms of it's not in a holiday period. Like for Christmas, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You settle back a little bit, you calm down. But as you mentioned, spring is not really the time.
Spring break.
Yeah.
It was spring break.
It's just such an unnatural place to put it because they don't want to ruin the TV cash cow that they've got. So
this should be part of the footage that shot us. The Premier League should be filming these guys going away on holiday, and this is like a Geordie Shore in the Premier League. So you get this break in the action, and then we all go on holiday with the players and watch them get into like all this carnage and stuff, and Klopp's phoning them up and saying, "What are you guys playing?"
It's like the Hangover film.
Girlfriends.
Sort of
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be a great bit of supplementary footage.
Yeah.
But the live content.
See, I think there should be more breaks in the season, because my favourite part of the entire season so far was Christmas, because at any stage, on any day, you just go, well, there's football on TV today. I just want more of it.
And then if there's no football on, you just watch the darts. I just think the problem, that's over Christmas. The problem is with winter break is, I'm sure you've all been out with a fella who never gets out. You know, he might get out once every 6 weeks or once every 3 months or something like that.
Lets himself go.
Just lets himself go. I think that's the way it was.
Handbrake off.
Oh, handbrake off. And I think that's the way it was with what they call the winter break. But like I keep coming back to, it wasn't winter break, it was spring break. And I cannot see the clubs sustaining it and much longer if the same type of things go on. If it's just going to be about partying and booze and women and all that kind of thing, I can't see it happening.
I can see it being a bit, very different context, but being a bit like what they've done with the summer transfer window stop, where they brought it in because people were moaning about it. They brought it in, immediately they realised the drawbacks of it, and then they reined it back in 2 seasons
I mean, that was
later.
a good idea, though, the transfer window.
It wasn't a bad idea, but it was massively flawed when the fact that nobody else is doing it.
Yeah,
So
for
you
sure.
needed to
Like
have
communism.
coordinated that, you know. You can't just do it on your own. They should have tried to reach out to the other leagues and get them to all do it. Trying to think that they can do it in a vacuum was naive, to put it politely.
Well, that's your classic British exceptionalism at work again, isn't it, lads?
Looking beyond the Premier League then with Liverpool, obviously they're just still clinging on at the moment in the Champions League. You would think, technically, Liverpool should go through for that. I mean, they obviously came back from, 3-0 against Barcelona last season. This is Atletico, who aren't as strong as that Barca team were, who weren't as emphatic in that first leg as Atletico were. But I seem to remember you were a little bit worried about Liverpool for Atletico.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
You still a bit worried?
I think it's all going to depend on the first 10, 15 minutes, because it could be one of those, if Liverpool get that early goal, then I would fancy them to go on and probably batter Atletico 4 or 5-1. But if that goal doesn't come and you're looking at 65, 70 minutes and the cop is getting anxious and you know, Simeone's kind of thinking, well, you know, we could get one more here and really kill the tie, then I would worry about Liverpool, yeah. But
I worry for them. I think of all the teams to have that mentality to be able to go to Anfield and walk out there with their chests puffed out and take it to Liverpool and just be bastards about it.
Yeah.
It's Atletico.
Definitely. I thought it was a nightmare tie for Liverpool once the draw was made, because I thought if there's one team that could lure Liverpool into their trap, then it's going to be Atletico. And I know it needs to be worlds apart from what they've been doing in La Liga. They've just not been on the ball this year. They'll still qualify for the Champions League next year, obviously, but it won't be in first or second place.
I think they'll be coming out of the tunnel ready to fight.
This is their season.
Yeah, they'll be coming out ready to fight, and it's teed up perfectly, I think, for 65 minutes of just skirmishing, and then Atletico break, Morata header, Bush, 2-0.
What Atletico need to avoid is conceding a penalty early, and they need to avoid a foolish red card somewhere along the way, because I think those are the two things that could really turn the tie in Liverpool's favour. But if they come out with that sort of hard-nosed discipline that Simeone's instilled in his teams down throughout the years, then
I think
it could be a training ground exercise for them. You know, if you're asking a Simeone team to go, right, the 11 of you stand out there for an hour and a half and don't concede a goal.
It depends what
It
depends what they kind of learn in a way from that match against Juventus in the last season, where they were 2-0 up heading to Turin, and Ronaldo completely destroyed them.
He did, yeah.
But Liverpool don't have anyone as totemic as Ronaldo, really. Like, in terms of they have Mane and Salah, who are obviously top of their game players. Yeah. But they're not like team swallowing the way that Ronaldo is in the Champions League every season. So I don't know. It's definitely on edge for me, but I still think Liverpool have the advantage.
I think you should have your own podcast where you just describe Ronaldo, because I could have just listened to you go on there.
I do love Ronaldo. I'll miss him as a footballer anyway. He's him and Messi. I always think we talk about it a lot with Goal as a product, as a news website. We've been kind of built in a way on the Messi Ronaldo era, and we're getting towards the end of that now. And I am a bit nostalgic about them too. I think it was before last week in the Clasico, we were putting together a script for the top 10 Clasico moments of Messi's career, and I was just looking back at him, just thinking there's been so many great matches between those two. I mean, was it the 3-2 when Messi took his shirt off? And there was a 4-3 as well between the two teams. There was some amazing Clásicos between those two players, Messi, Ronaldo, Barcelona, Madrid, over the years. So it's hard not to look at Ronaldo as a player and kind of just enjoy what he's brought. I mean,
it's like the Police Academy series. You know it's going to come to the end.
Well,
but you just got to enjoy it, and nothing else will come close to it of a similar nature.
Yeah, I remember sitting watching Champions League with you. I think it was the season before when Real Madrid knocked out Juventus.
Oh, when
Ronaldo's overhead kick, outrageous goal, just such an incredible moment. So it's hard not to enjoy him, really. When he's at the top of his game, Euro 2016, I love that. I mean, he got injured. I love that even more when he was on the sidelines, just trying to manage.
I was there.
Nations League for me. He just decided, right.
The hat trick against Switzerland.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. Every goal was sensational.
One of the greatest hat tricks you'd ever see. Incredible player.
Would love to see him come back to the Premier League.
I'd love to have him on the podcast, if I'm honest.
DAZN ambassador Ronaldo, get him on.
I think
pull some strings.
the further time goes on, I think the decision that Real Madrid didn't meet his demands for that contract and end up having to punt him to Juventus is just one of the all-time worst sporting decisions that any organisation has ever taken.
I guess for them it was just like a boy who cried wolf, because he did it before. Hadn't
he did. Yeah, he did it probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
He said it before. I'm not happy. All that kind of stuff.
Another 5 million. Oh, I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm happy. It makes me happy.
Before.
Money makes me happy.
Yeah,
lots of it. Yeah. But this time they said, no, go on. If you want to go, go. He said, I'm going to do it. Fine, do it. I'm definitely going to do it.
Called his bluff and failed.
And then all of a sudden they've got Mariano Diaz wearing the number 7 shirt. Your all-time backfires.
Right, let's swivel back to Liverpool here. We've gone off on Real Madrid. I do love talking about Ronaldo, but let's go back to Liverpool. With the fact that they're still in the Champions League, let's go on the basis that potentially they do beat Atletico. Do you expect them to start rotating away from the Premier League? Because they're 22 points clear, I think now, is it?
I think the only thing that would have kept them interested in the Premier League, I mean, they're going to win the Premier League, would be the unbeaten record. And they probably would have tried to make sure that they had strong teams out, just to make sure that the record is won. Yeah. I mean, what else can they concentrate on? Breaking the record points total.
It's a bit of a nonsense one, isn't it?
Would Klopp be interested in that? I'm not so sure.
No.
So
he said he wasn't bothered about the unbeaten record.
Well, that's nonsense,
they always say that.
Yeah.
Why was he so salty then after Watford?
Because he lost.
You hear him to the BBC reporter after the Chelsea game. I really wish he'd stop talking about the Watford game. It's really playing on his mind.
I almost forgot how snipey he could be
when they lose games.
I remember at the end of his Dortmund era, he was such a snipey little bitch.
Yeah, he is.
And it's good to see a bit of that in him again. I think after Atletico as well, they were having a bit of a pop, some of the Liverpool people. Klopp, and I think it was Robertson, who got a little bit upset about the fact that they were celebrating like they'd won the title. Like, of course they're going to celebrate.
Of course they're, yeah.
Being the top team in the world right now. But I think you're right. I think they will start to rotate some of those. Salah, Mane, Firmino. We'll start to see more rotation there in the Premier League.
And some of the younger guys, I mean, like Nico Williams and Curtis Jones, they're probably not that far away from deserving game time in the Premier League as well. So I think being able to do it with the pressure off. And
it'll be interesting to see how last night affected Curtis Jones, if at all. Because it was, I think, quite a bit of the second goal was his fault.
Not only that, but when you look at if you want to make an age comparison between what he offered and what Billy Gilmour offered last night, I mean, they're streets apart, absolute streets apart in terms of how they can influence a game, how they construct a game.
What I did like about Curtis Jones, though, he made that mistake, lost the ball. He obviously couldn't catch Barkley, but he pinged it back, in comparison to like Luke Shaw, who just like wobbles back and goes, some more potatoes in the shots. He was brilliant. He just couldn't catch him.
I'm blaming Van Dijk for that goal.
I'd put 20% of the blame on Van Dijk.
Would you? 20%?
Didn't give him a call.
I think sometimes with Van Dijk, it's so easy for him that I think he just forgets to defend. I know that was one of the big criticisms when he was playing for Celtic. It was just, sometimes when the bread and butter stuff needs to be done, sometimes it just goes out of his head to do it.
There's just a bit of an arrogance about him at the moment, where they think we're good enough to beat these teams. Just turn up and
they generally are. Though.
I think they are. And that's part of the problem. I think, but you do see Van Dijk, and he's a little. Now he's kind of like got that kind of like, it's all right. And he generally does look like that, but there's still that, there'll still be like 20% of the brain that needs to be like proper motivated to make it happen.
Especially playing in those positions. You need to make sure that, you're gobbling up everything that comes your way.
And then it's someone else's fault, if they lose. Adrian's dropped that one. Lovren's in the team. It's like, I'm still the best player in the world.
You'd like more focus on Virgil van Dijk.
No, well, I think you've got to accept defeat as a team, haven't you? If you win as a team, you lose as a team.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's probably accurate. I think that's probably one of the reasons why being an invincible team is so difficult, because it's not even like you can criticize someone for getting complacent, because it's just so natural. You win games week in, week out, and it's similar to sort of a longer period of time as well, why Ferguson was so sort of revered in what he did when it came to management, keeping that Man United team motivated all those years.
Massively, yeah.
It's so difficult to do that, and it'll be interesting to see if Klopp can kind of manage that with this Liverpool team, who are on top of the world right now, but stay there is another matter entirely. I'm going to drop Salah this week, part of what we're talking about here, about in terms of rotation and Liverpool potentially resting some key players. I'm going to get him.
It's just like, it annoys me that they're just going to rest players now. We've lost, so it's almost like taking your ball home. Like, we've lost a game now, so we're not really bothered to the end of the season. We'll just rotate players in and out. We don't really care now if we lose a few games. It's like, piss off, get back out there.
What an FPL team to manage.
Yeah, exactly. I've got second place in the podcast league to win.
The warning,
putting Salah as captain here.
The warning that you would have to give them, though, is I remember Pep Guardiola when he was manager of Bayern. I think it was in his first season at Bayern. They'd won the league like before St. Patrick's Day almost, and it was all over. And then they started, resting players, bringing players in the league who might need minutes, doing a bit of experimentation, that kind of thing. And the momentum of the team just completely collapsed, and they ended up going out of the Champions League.
Yeah,
Real Madrid.
I think it was against Real Madrid who smashed them. And they just seemed to, because the league was all done and dusted, and then they had a draw, and then they had a defeat. The momentum just.
I think it's a dangerous game.
It is, yeah.
You
need to go 100%.
I get these guys need to be fresh, and you are protecting them from potentially, career-changing injury or something. But they're footballers. They if they're good enough and they're fit, then they should go out there and play in as many games as possible, I suppose. Yeah. I know that sounds a little bit ludicrous, but
the old cliches, you can't turn it on and off, can you?
No.
You have to be on it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what took Liverpool to the top of the league. That's what took them to the Champions League. That sort of relentlessness, that momentum that they build up, not only within games but across seasons as well. And if you pull a handbrake on something like that, it can be very, very difficult to get the
because it can roll over into next season, can't it?
Yeah.
Do you ever really get that momentum back? Just winning, relentlessly winning. If anything, like Klopp might look at this as a bit of a good thing that they've lost a couple of games now, because it's a bit of might be a bit of a slap in the face to a few of the players that are actually like, you've got to see this season out now.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just going to land
Imagine
on
they
your laps.
didn't win the league.
But the biggest collapse of all time.
Oh my God.
It would be legendary. I can't even
they would have to tar and feather Klopp.
Poor Neil's face.
Yeah.
All those books done again.
Man United fans would be loving it, wouldn't they? They'd be celebrating it with Man City.
Yeah, they would.
Just greatest collapse of all time.
Hands across Manchester. Singing Kumbaya to each other.
Right, let's move on then.
Right,
so
okay.
let's look specifically at Game Week 29.
Yeah, are we doing the 1 week wonder?
We are. You're skipping into my intro here.
Sorry.
That's all right. Before going through mine, Sam and Dave's changes, Pete will be revealing his 1 week wonder team. He has to pick a team to get as many points as possible from this one single game week. Last week, Goal's international managing editor, Rob Parrish, bagged a disappointing 37 points.
Well, it was a difficult match week, as we said.
It was. He was dealt a rough game week. Yeah. But that means that he actually holds the second best and the second worst scores for guests.
Who's got the best one?
The best is Neil. So that's who you've got to beat. He has 77 points.
He got 77.
Yeah, I know.
I bet he just stacked it with Liverpool players that
week.
He
did, actually, and they did really well that week. So he looks out a bit. You have the fifth best score, though, overall.
That's not bad.
You have 65 points. So
out of 29? Out of 28?
22, I think it is.
That's not bad.
So that's what you've got to beat. That's a high score. Best of luck.
Okay.
Who have you picked?
Right, so do you want the 11 or the squad?
Let's go with the 11 and then we'll do the subs.
Right, okay. So in goal, I've picked the Wolves goalkeeper, Rui Patricio. And they're playing at home against Brighton on Saturday. I think Brighton have been sort of they've been good in games, but they've kind of been an easy 3 points for a lot of teams in the league this season. I think
certainly this year.
Yeah, and if Wolves have any hope with that outside shot at the Champions League places, then I think they'll need to be picking up 3 points there, picking up 3 handy points. And I've gone for Rui Patricio because he's one of the best goalkeepers in the league anyway. Scored a lot of points already this season, so Patricio for me. I'm going for a 3-man back four.
Okay.
So I'm sticking with Wolves and I'm going for my compatriot Matt Doherty.
Excellent.
Notice the pronunciation.
Doherty.
It's not Doherty.
Doherty.
It's not Doherty.
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 How do you say Derby County?
Like it's spelled.
Go on, say it.
Derby.
Derby. It's
Anyway.
not a horse race. It's a football club.
Potato.
Doherty. He's a good pick. I've got him in my team.
Yeah,
He's
Doherty's
smashing it at the moment.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he scores goals. He makes chances. And because he's classed as a defender, he keeps clean sheets.
A lot of touches in the box as well for a defender.
Is that right?
Sam was saying that last week.
Alongside him, despite Dave just slamming him there, I've gone
Slamming who?
Virgil van Dijk.
Okay.
I've got Virg. So I'm not taking him out because he's a beautiful man.
Liverpool play at 12:30 on Saturday at home against Bournemouth. And if we're going to get one of those classic bounce backs, then Bournemouth could be in a world of hurt there at Anfield on Saturday.
Oh, at Anfield, yeah.
Yeah. So I've gone for Virgil, not only for the potential of a clean sheet, but he's a good man to score from a corner as well every now and again. He's had a few goals this season, Virgil has. He's the third top scoring defender in the entire thing.
I'm not sure, but that sounds about right.
Yeah.
He's certainly he's like magnetic when it comes to corners.
Yeah,
The ball
he is.
just
Yeah,
goes towards his head every
big
time.
man. And then the third member of my back four, I've gone for Craig Cathcart.
Okay. Who've Watford got this weekend?
Watford are away, but they're away to Crystal Palace.
Okay.
In can you call it London Derby? Does Watford claim to be in London these days?
They do claim it, yeah.
Nah, I'm not having it.
I don't know. Depends whether it starts at the Watford Gap or not, because that's like the start of the north, isn't it?
But you know, their training ground is right next door to Arsenal's, and Arsenal count themselves as a London club. So
A loose London derby then.
So what you're saying, Arsenal should be classed as home counties.
as a Hertfordshire club, because I pronounce that Hertfordshire as well. Anyway, Craig Cathcart. On the bench then I've got Basham, Sheffield United player. They're at home against Norwich, which they should do well in that one. And then I've got Ben Chilwell. They don't play till Monday night. Leicester don't, but they've got Aston Villa at home as well.
I'm surprised you're not starting him, actually. Don't want to influence your starting, but, you know, leave him on your bench if you want.
Yeah, he's on the bench.
Okay, fine. Who you got in midfield then?
Right, my midfield. I've got 4 midfielders in here. Okay, so I've gone, sticking with the Leicester theme, I've gone for James Maddison against Villa. Free kicks and corners and through balls and things like that. I think he's a good player. He scored a few points this season too, so he's in. Sadio Mane, taking advantage of the fact that he's classed as a midfielder in this. I think he's going to score a hat-trick maybe against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
I've gone for the other player I've got, one of the other players I've gone for midfield for me is the most underrated player in the most underrated team in the Premier League. I've gone for Dwight McNeil of Burnley. You want to see their record over the past 6 games?
It's tidy, isn't it?
You were saying they're in one of the form teams right now.
They are. They're second in the form table to Liverpool. I think in their last 5 games, they conceded 1 goal. Last 6 games, they conceded 2 goals. I think it's 4 wins and a draw in their last 5 games. And that's against teams like Leicester and Man United and Arsenal. Newcastle away, Southampton as well. So, you know, sometimes if teams go on a run of 3 or 4 matches without a defeat, pundits will go, "Oh wow, have you seen how well, I don't know, Brighton are doing?" But you know, there's actually a bit of substance behind what Burnley are doing at the minute. They're playing really well.
I dropped hope, and instantly Burnley turned their form around.
Well, there you go.
They were dreadful over Christmas, I think it was, and then just instantly turned it on, and now they're really good. So you're right.
I don't know. I'm just looking at McNeil's points here. And I think they're slightly skewed by the fact he had a great match against Bournemouth with a goal and assist and a clean sheet.
Right.
Because, like, once in the last, 14 game weeks has he got more than 3 points.
Yeah, we mentioned him a bit last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
What, did he should be scoring more points?
And also, no they did really well that 1 week.
He should be in the same category as McTominay and Makaleli.
I don't know what to say to that.
Doesn't do anything for in fantasy.
Yeah, probably. But
you've got him there anyway.
I think also just looking further forward, not for a 1 week wonder, but Burnley have got Man City the week after as well. So
that's fine for me, isn't it?
Well, I just pick a team at the start of the season anyway, and then leave it.
Yeah.
And then the other player I've gone for in my 4-man midfield is John Fleck from Sheffield United. We did speak already about they've got Norwich, and he tends to do well for them in midfield. And my sub on that team in the midfield is Chowdhury from Leicester. Again, you want to talk about the Makelele and McTominay style players. He's got like 30 points all season, even though he's probably played most of the games. And then up front, I've gone for Raul Jimenez, my 3rd Wolves player. Again, doing really well this season. I've gone for Danny Ings. I don't think we mentioned Southampton yet, but Southampton are at home against Newcastle on Saturday.
Potential goals there.
Potential goals there. And then I've gone for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang,
who has 2 games this week.
He's got 2 games this week against West Ham and then against Man City.
Home to West Ham, right?
Home to West Ham on Saturday, yeah. And he's going to be my captain.
Okay, Captain Aubameyang. That's a good choice for captain. You don't have any City players in there, do you?
I don't have any City players in there, no.
Interesting. Cool. We'll see how that team does then. See if you can beat your 65-point haul earlier this season.
I would love it if I beat me.
Love it. Moving along, Dave. Who have you gone with for your transfers this week? Your team.
I'm just looking. I mentioned it last week and I didn't get him out, but I want to get Mason Mount out, so I'm thinking about replacing him with Saka at Arsenal. Obviously, Arsenal have got 2 games this week as well. One against West Ham, where I imagine they'll do all right, even though West Ham have picked up a bit. The second is against Man City. It's a difficult one, but he's a young lad who's coming to the team, and he's got quite a few assists to his name already.
He's filthily cheap.
Yes,
absolutely.
What is he? 4.6,
4.6, I think it was.
Yeah,
absolutely outrageous.
So getting Mount out and getting him in gives me 1.5 million to then potentially use on another player as well.
Would that be a -4 hit or?
No, that's that would be a -4. Yeah, if I got another one in. But I'm thinking about leaving Lundstrom in. As potentially they might bring him in against Norwich. He's been kind of coming off the bench. I think he only played like 9 minutes in their last game or something, so he's not been playing a great deal. My defence, other than the two Liverpool players, having Kelly and Tanganga, it looks like I need to do something there. Midfield's pretty strong with Salah, De Bruyne, Decore, Fernandes. I transferred Fernandes in last week as well as a bit of a sly one just before the transfer deadline. Sam's relentless chat on him basically
he's good, isn't
talks me into it. It does look like the real deal actually.
I feel like I'm missing the hype train here. I feel like it's passing me by and I'm going to be left stranded on that station, but I don't want to do it yet because United have 2 pretty hard games, but then the more I think about it, they actually do turn up in those hard games, don't they? I'm just shit at choosing United players this season.
He's not looked intimidated by the fact he's moved. He's kind of slipped straight into the Premier League, hasn't he? He's intimidated by the fact he's moved to Manchester United and he's playing in this league that's then broadcast to millions around the world. He's basically
unfazed.
He's totally unfazed. He's one of those classic footballers who he just looks like he just loves playing. So as soon as he gets out there, it doesn't matter who he's playing against, what he's doing. He's interested.
I think he's a slightly more vibrant and obviously more mobile version of Juan Mata.
Yeah.
He's got that level of intelligence. I think that's why I think already those two have linked up quite well because they're just bright footballers. I also love the fact that Fernandes has played 4 games and has already got 7 more points than Jesse Lingard has all season.
Oh, wow.
Definitely, yeah.
Poor Jesse.
Poor Jesse.
I like Jesse.
What's next for Jesse?
Didn't he get some points in the Europa League the other week? Was it a goal or an assist that he got?
When you won 5-0, he did score. He did, didn't he?
I can't remember, man.
I think people were finally like, "Oh my god, Jesse Lingard turning up."
Fred scored 2 in that goal. It was one of those games. Even Fred scored.
Yeah, so you can't put that on his CV then, can he? Poor Jesse.
No.
Cool. Well, Saka, as you mentioned, is definitely someone who I reckon will be on a lot of people's radars. I might put him in, but actually, as you were talking, I've removed him from my team.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, but he was so cheap that I kind of want to put him in. But I don't really want to double up too much on Arsenal. So they've got obviously 2 games this week, but one of them is away to Man City. Then, you look at the fixtures coming up. It's not that green. It's not that hopeful. I'm tempted to spread it out a little bit.
Oh, I thought Arsenal have got a good run in now to the end of the season.
I mean, it's not terrible, but you're right. So you're looking here at fixtures. You've got West Ham and Man City this game week. Brighton away next week, which is good. Then they've not got a team in that FA Cup week, which that would have been Southampton, so it would have been a decent one. So that would be rearranged. But you've got Norwich and Wolves after, but then you've got Leicester, Tottenham, Liverpool. I don't know. It's not.
I think
great.
Leicester have gone a bit though.
They have
and
a
Tottenham
head's gone, legs
weak.
gone.
Tottenham are weak
well.
actually. And I've got 2 Spurs players, so
I think Arteta's made a difference at Arsenal. I think they're gonna finish fairly
them
high
up a
now.
bit, hasn't he? And you know what I like sometimes when. This is the weird one, but when some managers go in and they give the team a new manager bounce and they win like the 3 of the first 4 and that kind of thing, and it proves to be unsustainable, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer style. Sometimes I feel when a new manager goes in and he starts drawing a load of games, but he's getting clean sheets, I think that is actually better for the long-term prospects because it means you're getting the bedrock, the foundations in, rather than just giving people the sprinkle of stardust that they want for the early days. I can really see Arteta building something long term, and he has been given the benefit of the doubt because he had so little to work with when he went in there in the first place.
Yeah. Their target's got to be get that 5th spot, hasn't it? Now, right? If they have a fantastic end to the season, they
Champions
can get in
League.
there.
Yeah, I mean, how far down the table do you have to go before people are not in contention for the European place? It's probably about 15th, I would have thought.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, it's a
they're
Newcastle
only, they're only 5 points off Man United.
Yeah. Palace are only 6
with
points.
a game in hand.
United, Christ.
Good
So
Lord.
what? Palace are 6 points off 5th? Is that right?
Isn't it a crazy Premier
crazy.
League this season
It's
where
crazy.
every time you look at the table, you're just astonished at where teams are and how
It
few
feels
points
more.
are in it.
It feels more like the Championship this season.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
looking
it
at the
does.
way the teams are
And
spread.
the standard.
2 defeats, you're in trouble. 2 wins, you're in contention. We saw that with Everton a few weeks ago. All of a sudden they were knocking on the door of the Champions League places
Ridiculous.
because succeeded in not losing for about 6 weeks. It's crazy season.
Wobbled a little bit, haven't they? Lost and a draw in the last 2 games, but still in there, still level with Arsenal, and they've got some fixtures, I guess, that are winnable coming up. I'm not sure who that other midfield sub's going to be, so I'm going to leave that blank. But
you're taking Salah out, aren't you?
But I am going to take Salah out, yeah, because I need to make money for Aubameyang to come in. Like Pete, I believe he's going to get some decent points this week, even with the mixed bag of Arsenal's fixture list.
Yeah,
Aubameyang is the player who you would think will.
He's
bring
so
in the
consistent
goals.
as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Arsenal are playing well or badly. It doesn't matter who they're playing. He always just seems to pop up with a goal or a decisive action. I love watching Aubameyang. He's far too good for Arsenal. I feel sorry for him having to play for them.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm putting him in, because my team is full of people who have put in at a whim, who aren't consistent, and now my team is a little bit shit. So I need someone in there who's going to bring in the consistency to fill the gaps that Lucas Moura and Almiron aren't quite bringing.
You're hot and cold players.
Yeah.
My God.
I make
black
some,
and white players, as you can say.
Yeah, it's not looking great there. But a midfielder of some sort will go in. Maybe Grealish. He's got another game in hand at some point.
No, don't do it, Miles.
I can fit him in.
Don't.
Dave doesn't like his hairstyle or that he wears his socks low down.
Oh, but you get to see his calves.
He's got lovely legs, hasn't he?
Got fantastic calves.
But they all
Beautiful
have lovely
legs.
legs, but he's the only one that shows them off. Of course, they've all got lovely legs.
All
They're
right.
footballers.
Well, they're all the same. You got to say they've all got lovely legs.
But they all have lovely legs.
Okay.
I've not checked Fernandez's out, but I reckon Grealish has got better legs than Fernandez.
Yeah.
You reckon?
Fernandez is a bit on the skinny side, isn't he? Grealish is quite toned. I'd say Grealish's legs are up there. Best legs in the Premier League.
This feels like a podcast on its own, right? Doesn't
Best
it?
legs
It
in
is,
the Premier
yeah.
League.
Leg raters.
Yeah. I reckon Verge has got great legs because he's just that kind of guy.
I never look down to his legs. I get to his midriff. I'm like, oh.
Get to his midriff, like, oh.
I don't think
Don't do it to yourself, Miles. Don't do it to yourself.
I don't think we've adequately replaced sort of the thickness of Eden Hazard, though. If I'm honest, that's my type of legs there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you like? You like proper girth? And moving on.
Sam,
Shall I go
Move
through
it on,
my team?
Miles.
Go
I'll
through
go
your
through my
team.
team. So a few changes happening this week. Out is Soyuncu, and in comes Saiss. I think he's a much better value version of Matt Doherty.
how much is Saiss?
4.5.
That's quite good, yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you deliberately mispronounce the name?
Saiss
Saiss.
is normal. That's how you pronounce it.
Is it Saiss?
No, I'm talking about Matt
About
Doherty.
talking.
Because I'm a troll. Out goes Vardy. In comes
I
Aubameyang.
cannot believe you kept with him for that long. But
TBC, I might spin that round. And sorry, I've just thumbed up and I'm being videoed because I saw him at the window. What a good.
you want to try that again?
No, let's just roll through it.
Just
But I don't. I've got Aguero still in there, and I like the idea of keeping him and Aubameyang in this week because they've got a double game week. But
I don't like the fact that you and Miles have both got Aguero and Aubameyang up front. And
Well,
it's like
fucking do something about it then.
Yeah, but what? Like completely lift my team so I can get an 11 point. What is it? 11.9 Aguero is he? And Aubameyang's
11.8 for me. But
Blooming heck.
has he gone up in price?
Blooming heck.
1.1. Yeah, he's gone up in price. 0.1. Okay.
So yeah, feeling a bit anxious about that. Going
Well,
into
in that
this
case, I'm
week, the fact
definitely
that you
committing
get-
to that.
Yeah.
I think I might drop Martial because I need to make 0.2 up, which I'm sure if you guys could, you'd lend it to me.
I think I owe you that, don't I?
Yeah, you do actually. So I need to have a think about who I bring in. I love your recommendation on Saka, so I might bring him in.
4.6
Yeah.
million.
He's
Yeah.
great.
How long, have you had Cantwell? Is he still in your side, or have you put?
Yeah,
Yeah.
still performing as well.
He does all right, doesn't
Yeah, for 4.7.
he? Yeah.
I mean, he's not performed for the past 8 game weeks, but that game week before that, woo, 10. But he had 10, 1, 10, 2, 1, 10 in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's enough for a 4.7 for me.
Where does Saka play for Arsenal? Where's he playing at the moment?
Left wing back.
Left wing back.
right.
Yeah.
But he's getting
So
a lot of
it's
assists,
a
isn't he?
midfielder as well in the game.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So he's not
Which is a
getting
bit
any clean
annoying.
sheet points, but
Yeah. Because he should be in the defenders.
Well, they had no intention of. I mean, they bought Kieran Tierney and they had Kolasinac as well. So there was no path to him for him to the first team at left back whatsoever. But over the course of the season, since Arteta's come in, he has the characteristics to play there. And you know, they don't use him like a fullback. He's the one that's overlapping and trying to get balls across. He is playing like a winger just from that wing back position. Not unlike how Belgium play, really. You know, in international football, that they name the players wide as defenders, but they're not defenders.
Yeah. It's like Carrasco always threw me out during the World Cup. I was like, why are you playing him as a right back? But he wasn't.
And then the next thing he's providing crosses but Arsenal need to watch out because Saka's not signed a long-term contract. He's only got 18 months left on that deal. And there seems to be a bit of a standoff over what he's going to do with his future.
Are you not putting Giroud in?
No,
you said last week
because he is a pure example of a player who would be like right now.
That's why I want you to put him in.
I really want to, but I'm resisting.
Just take Aguero out or
no. And it's a midfield. I need a solid midfielder who's going to get me points. And there's not a lot of options underneath the price range that I have, which is about 7 point something million.
Have you got Maddison in already?
I've already got Maddison in. Yeah, he's been a mainstay. He's not done well recently, but you look at their upcoming fixtures: Leicester have Villa, Watford, Brighton, Everton, Palace.
They're gone. Leicester are gone.
Eminently losable.
I think Leicester are gone.
Leicester are gone. Even when they were second, I said they were gone. People were saying to me Leicester, and I'd say they're gone.
You're so ahead of the times, Pete, with all your predictions.
Visionary.
Unless they're completely wrong.
But I had a look over they did really well over the first sort of 15, 16 games of the season. But then you have a look at the games that they didn't win. You know, they lost to Man United, and then they had draws. You know, they couldn't just get those results together against what you would perceive to be the top team. So basically, they were beating the dross of the Premier League, and then people were going, "Oh, look, they're going to get in the Champions League." Yeah. Doesn't work like that.
They still will get the Champions League.
They will not get the Champions League. They'll fall out. They will fall out. Mark my words.
And then we will have a retrospective podcast episode where we'll listen back to my very early season prediction that Man United would finish third and go, fucking hell, Sam, you were right. Again, again, and again.
Still dreaming, isn't he?
I think we're going to clip that little bit out, actually, and we'll just play it in the last podcast episode when United finished 6th.
Yeah.
I have Leicester finishing 6th.
I mean, we'll see. They're, 8 points off at the moment?
They're 8 points clear of
6th. Yeah. Wolves, Man United, Chelsea will all have to overtake them.
What's going to happen?
I can't see all three of them.
Leicester have lost 8 times this season already in 28 games.
They've been really naff in the last
month. 25% of their game, over 25% of their games they've lost.
Vardy is so streaky though. If he does start scoring again, they'll be fine. So they just need Vardy to start netting a few goals, and maybe they'll turn it around.
I think they've been really lucky.
Probably getting found out a little bit now, and they'll end up where they belong.
If I was Rodgers, I'd have taken the Barcelona job. Get out of Dodge.
I think if Rodgers had ever been offered the Barcelona job, he would have definitely taken it.
Definitely. He loves that stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah. See, do you know what his biggest problem was at Liverpool? Like, you know, after that season where they finished second, he didn't come straight out and say, we're a one-man team, it was all Suarez. If he had said that, then he might have had a chance of keeping his job. You know, because once he's decided to, you know, take credit for it and think, oh, yeah, I'm sort of a managerial genius here, and then Suarez leaves and then they tank, then you're kind of exposing yourself to the criticism. But if you get in front of that and say, look, I'm warning you, this is a one-man team. It's all about Suarez. When he goes, we're dead.
That'd have gone down well with the rest of the team.
Should have said it.
The board looking at him going, that was the right thing to say, yeah.
Did they replace him with Balotelli, was it?
Ricky Lambert, maybe?
Didn't age well.
You talk about your Ronaldo being replaced by Diaz. What about Suarez being replaced by Ricky Lambert?
Christ, yeah. Right, let's wrap this up anyway. This has been a good hour of podcast. I think it's been one of our longest. Dave, Sam, Pete, thanks very much for joining us today. Podcast listeners, YouTube viewers, you can get in touch by tweeting your fantasy football thoughts with the hashtag UKFFS.